Just hold on a sec here. Let's get to. All right, everyone. I think we're going to get started. So just to start off, my name's Shane Mailman. I work with the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. I'd like to thank all of you for taking part in our Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame Hero Chat. We had over 250 people signed up for this, so there's a lot of classes here today. So we're really excited about that. Before I pass it off to the Hall CEO, Bruce Rainey, and Justine, just a couple of things for housekeeping, but everything looks good so far. Make sure you keep your mic off. You can leave your camera on, which a lot of people have. And it's easiest to use the speaker view at the top. It's up in the top of your right-hand corner of your Zoom screen. And that way you'll just be able to see the people that are talking. And besides that, everyone just enjoy, and I'll pass it off to Bruce.
Shane, thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. With 250 classes, we're talking about thousands of students on this chat today. So thank you for taking part and taking time this morning. You're going to really enjoy this. Justine Colley-Leger she's probably the best basketball player that Nova Scotia has ever produced. When you say something like that, you always get arguments back, but I'd argue in favor of her. She was remarkable. She was a two-time National Player of the Year at St. Mary's University. No woman has ever scored more points in university basketball than Justine. And she could have gone on to a career in the WNBA and the Canadian national team, but chose to focus on family instead. We'll hear about that. First, though, if you never saw her play, we have a little bit of video, and playing video on Zoom can be a bit of a challenge, but we're going to try to capture the screen and play you a little bit of video of Justine doing what she did so well. So take a look here.
Flex to the weak side, drive by Colley, count it, and the foul for Justine Colley.
She's the best I've coached for sure. She was a very dominant player who could influence the basketball game in many particular areas, not just scoring. She, on a nightly basis, I always used to say she used to fill the stat sheet.
It's a pickoff by Colley. And my goodness, we are starting to figure out why she is the all-time leading scorer in Canadian university history. And there's Colley.
Watch out! Little shake, bake, and take. How about the make on top?
How good is that? What are you going to do about that? Even the defensive player of the year doesn't have any say in that one.
Yes, indeed. So there she is. From a few years back, doing what she did so well at St. Mary's University. I want to welcome now and get her on Zoom here to talk to all of you, Justine Colley-Leger. Hello, Justine.
Hey, how you doing, Bruce?
Very good. Thank you for doing this. I'd love to hear from you, first of all. You're very proud to be from East Preston, Nova Scotia. Tell us a bit about the community and what it was like growing up in East Preston, Nova Scotia.
It still is a very tight-knit community. We have a predominantly Black community, or predominantly African Nova Scotia community here. And growing up, there were always activities that we could do, whether that was based out of the church or out of the rec center. Actually, the first sport that I started to play was baseball out of the East Preston Rec Center I think we had a T-ball league going on up there at the baseball field. So my sports history started here in my community. Of course, I've shared the stories of daycare and playing, trying to play basketball at daycare. But East Preston's always been a special place. And I think it's because we've always supported each other. We've always looked out for each other, took care of each other. And they definitely did that for me through my entire career and continue to do that for me and my family now. Yeah, for sure.
You know what? I've got a ton of things I want to ask you. And we asked kids across the province to also ask questions. So much of what I was going to ask you is going to be asked by the kids. They were thinking along the same lines here. Question from the Guysborough Shedabukto Education Center, the grade 7 social studies class. What inspired you to play basketball? And could you weave in, if you don't mind, because I love the story. You've heard about this. I know you don't remember, but the little daycare people remembering you trying to shoot socks or something into a basket.
Yeah, so Basketball sports has always been in my family. My mother talked about when she played sports at high school and the junior high level. I watched my sisters both participate in sports, whether my parents wanted to make sure we were very well-rounded. So we were in swimming and gymnastics and baseball. And then basketball seemed to be the one that kind of stuck. So me and my closest sister were about 5 years apart. So when she was just starting to get into sport, I was just starting to be able to, walk around and crawl and, be a little bit more mobile myself. And so I was watching her play basketball again at the East Preston Rec Center for the East Preston Pacers. She was one of the pioneer teams out of that facility. And yeah, my daycare teachers used to tell my parents how at lunchtime or, recess when we went outside to play, a lot of the kids would run to the swings, they'd run to the sandbox or, the little bicycles that you drive in the backyard. But I was always going to the bin, which was way bigger than I could reach to the bottom, and I was asking for a basketball. There was like a little 4-foot basketball hoop, and actually my son has attended the same daycare, and they have the same pole that has that basketball net that I used to shoot on. So lots of memories coming back. Taking him, dropping him off to daycare. But my daycare teachers would tell me about, or tell my parents how I would ask for help getting that ball out so I could go shoot. And, I was probably 3-4 years old at that point in time. And I mean, it did me wonders.
Yeah, and you clearly loved it right away. What do you remember just about how much you would play?
All the time and wherever I could. So growing up, might have been, in my kitchen with the imaginary ball, doing, spin moves on my sisters or putting it through with my legs. In our backyard, we had a basketball net, which actually my parents still have it, and my kids have played on that hoop as well. And we had the basketball net on the grass. And so every now and then my sister would, go outside with a bucket of bleach and pave a strip so that we could practice our layups on a part of the grass that you could actually dribble the basketball. Because if the grass was green, the ball was not bouncing. But if the grass was dead, then the ball would actually make it back to your hand. So we would be playing in our backyard. Again, my sister's much older than me, so she was kind of, dominate me around the court. And then I started with the JC Rockets when I was 8, which I think is the age of some of the people that are watching today. And that's when I started with the JC Rockets when I was 8. And then it was junior high and high school, and it just kind of followed me through the rest of my life.
So to be clear, you would dribble on anything that would allow the ball to bounce back up to your hand, pretty much.
Pretty much. One tip for those that are playing basketball: if you want to get really good at dribbling, practice on rocks. Because dribbling on rocks is extremely difficult, and you get really good control because the ball doesn't necessarily always come back straight up. So that's my tip to the young players out there.
Here's a question from Smoky Drive Elementary School, grades 3 and 4. Growing up, they're talking a lot right now about heroes in their class, apparently. Who was your hero, or who did you look up to growing up?
Off the court, it was definitely my parents. They made a lot of sacrifices for us growing up to make sure that, as I mentioned before, we were really well-rounded. So anything that we showed interest in, they tried their best to make sure that we were able to, at least try that. So I've done swimming, I've done gymnastics, I've been in piano lessons. My sisters have done singing classes. They really just showed me what it meant to be a leader in your household. Now that I reflect as a mother myself, I often hear myself repeating, the things my parents used to say to me. But they were definitely the ones that inspired me the most to, try my best, always do my best, never give up. Those were the lessons that I learned at home. And then on the court, I would say Allen Iverson. I was very similar to Allen Iverson in the sense that I was always the smallest kid on the court. He was often always one of the smallest players on the court at the NBA level. And he was always faster than everyone. And so was I. And so there was just so many similarities between his game and my game. And I think my very first pair of sneakers were I3s. And I had a white jersey and a black jersey. And when I outgrew them, those ended up on my wall. And so, yeah, it was my parents and Allen Iverson would definitely be the two that I looked up to the most.
Yeah, for kids that might not have ever seen him play, go to YouTube. He was incredible. He was kind of like Steph Curry, but maybe even quicker around the hoop, would you say? He was remarkable, wasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And he was definitely a better defender than Steph Curry, which he was really well known for steals. And I have a little bit of history of anticipation and stealing the ball. So yeah, I would say I definitely mimicked my game a lot around Allen Iverson.
Here's a really good question from Seaside Elementary School in Eastern Passage. Was there something you would do before a game to get focused and get ready?
Not so much when I was younger, but as I grew older, typically it was listening to music, kind of, pump yourself up. Actually, we did listen to music when we were younger. One of the girls would bring a stereo, and at this time we had to burn CDs. The kids probably don't know what burning a CD means, but we would burn CDs with different pump up songs that, of course, mom and dad would allow us to have. And we would have that playing in the corner when we would, be doing our layup lines or getting ready for the game. As I got older, I would not wear my jersey underneath my warm-up t-shirt or my warm-up sweatshirt. But other than that, I didn't have too many rituals when it came to, I always wear ankle braces because I have really bad ankles. But other than that, I don't think I have too many other rituals.
I'd like to ask you about dedication because you went to Halifax Grammar School from grade 9 to 12, is that right?
Yes.
Grade 9 to 12. And you were still living in East Preston, correct?
Yes.
So what were those days like? Break those down, start as early as you had to in the morning, work in school and studies, and tell me about how dedicated you had to be.
Yeah, so living in East Preston, it would take about, by car in the mornings, 30, 45-minute drive to get to school if I was going straight to school. If I wasn't going straight to school, then I would often have to take the number 10 bus from Dartmouth, from Main Street on Dartmouth, and that would take about 45 minutes to get to school. So about 15, 20 minutes to get to the bus, and then another 45 minutes actually on the bus. So my mornings would typically start around 6 a.m. Typically, I would go over with my dad, who started work around 7:30, 7:45 in the morning, where school didn't start till 8:20, 8:30. So we were leaving the house by 6:45 because he really likes to not be late. So we were leaving the house by 6:45, 7 at the latest. That 35-minute car ride to Halifax Grammar. Often the lights would be on in the building, and the door would be unlocked, but there wouldn't really be anyone in there other than like the caretakers kind of getting prepared for the day. So when I was in high school and when I was in junior high as well, they always had, lounging chairs and couches and stuff. So I would typically find a comfy spot that I could, get the few extra minutes of sleep that I was missing because I was getting up, at least an hour earlier than I had ever done before. And I was always the first kid in the school and often waving to the teachers as I walked down the hall to start their school day. So class would typically start around 8:30, have a full day of school, which would end around 3. And then typically our basketball practice wouldn't start until 6 p.m. So that's about a 3-hour time window that we had to fill. And because I live so far from the city, it wasn't an option for me to just, go home down the street and then turn around and come back for practice later that day. So I would stay at the school, or as I got older, friends would invite me over to their places if they were, within walking distance from the school. And we would either do homework or we would just hang out. But if I didn't do my homework, then I'd have to put that after basketball practice. So practice was at 6, typically till 8. And then by the time you get out of the gym, you get home, around 9 p.m. And then if I didn't do that homework, it has to get done. So we're doing homework starting at 9 o'clock. Then there's, shower and eat and all of those other things that you normally do after playing. So then you're in bed by 10, 11 o'clock, up again at 6 to start your day. And I did that consistently for 3 years. And then by my 4th year, mom and dad started giving me permission to take the car. I had got my license at that point. And so I was able to, actually drive over, which was, I was late because I never gauged the traffic properly, but it made it so much easier that I could actually drive and have a little bit more freedom, or I would say more sleep. But those were my days. They were long. They were typically from 6 a.m. right through to 9 p.m. Most of those hours, I wasn't even home. I was, at friends' houses or at the school.
And the key thing in all of that is get the homework done. Your parents made sure that was a priority, right?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for young girls, playing a sport, if you want to continue, you have to go to university. Right? There's not many options, and a very few amount of people can play a sport right up until high school and then just go professionally. That's not really a realistic path for most people. So if you want to do sports after high school or junior high, if you want to go play for Dow or St. Mary's or Cape Breton or St. FX, Acadia, you need to have your academics. And my parents were always super, super on us to prioritize school. If we had a school assignment that needed to be done, well, I was missing practice to make sure I got that assignment done. If I had an assignment done and I wanted to go hang out with friends, well, the friends had to wait and I had to go do that homework. I remember the first day of school, actually, my cousins who lived across the street from me, they came over to see how I was doing. And I sat at my kitchen table crying because I had so much schoolwork to do that I never experienced before, and I wasn't able to go hang out with my friends. So there were times where it was really, really hard going to grammar, but I learned so much about myself and how much I can do and how strong I am that I don't regret any of that time whatsoever.
Justine, there's a ton of questions here, and I'm sure it has to do with what a lot of people are learning in regards to Black History Month. Wondering if you dealt with discrimination or racism in your basketball career. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the discrimination that I faced was mainly at the grammar school, and that was because it was a private school in the south end of Halifax, and so there was diversity there, but not in the way that I was used to when going to Graham Creighton Junior High. Hey, Graham Creighton. There were, Asian students, there were people from the Middle East, there were African students, there were South American students, but predominantly most of the students there were white. And I would say kids are really mean, and not always because they mean to be mean, but sometimes they are. Often there would be jokes about the color of my skin. Sometimes there would be jokes about the way that I would, wear my hair in different hairstyles. And then, what most people's reaction is when something, hurts your feelings is you laugh along. Right? Someone hurts your feeling. You don't want everyone else to see that it hurts. So you typically laugh along to, try to hide the pain that you're feeling. And so I spent a lot of my time through grammar laughing along, just so that I could feel accepted in that environment where I already knew that I was coming from such a different world. So it was challenging, but I think because I had the support of my family and my community, they helped me really get through some of those challenging times.
Yeah, I guess the follow-up question is, how do you deal with that? And with you, it was always falling back on family, huh?
Yeah, so I share, some things with my sisters or my parents to try and understand why these things were happening, or to try to understand how to, move forward. And the one thing that I currently tell my children, and I share with youth all the time, is that the current situation that you're in, or where you are right now in your life, is not where you're going to be forever. So the group of friends you have, some of them you might see on your wedding day, or some of them you might know once you reach, 30, 40, 50 years old. From my friends at grammar school, I still talk to one person. Right? And that's not because I didn't have any friends when I was there. I had lots of friends. We had lots of fun. But sometimes when your environment changes or who you're around changes, that means that you also get the opportunity of making new friends and having new experiences. So for myself, being at grammar, I knew that I was only there for a certain amount of time, from grade 9 to 12, get my education, play some basketball, and then we can move on and leave those things behind me and start, doing what I feel more comfortable and being who I want to be and stuff like that.
We had a spectacular question from Rocky Lake Junior High. The idea here being that you're not always going to get along 100% with every teammate you ever had. There will be conflicts on teams. How did you deal as a leader, as a captain, with conflicts on teams you played?
The biggest thing that we try to do is we always try to talk it out. Sometimes it felt like we were having team meetings far too often, but the best way to get through conflict is to talk it out. You have to really understand why someone feels the way that they feel, or why someone is saying the things that they're saying, to be able to come to a solution or to be able to resolve the issue that you're having. So our coaches did a really good job at making sure that we had time off the court together as well as on the court, so that we get to know who each other were. We got an idea of, who your family is, where you come from, all those different types of things. So often we would have like a team retreat at the start of the year where it was just the team with the coaches. And we would, go to a cabin, or we would go to Keji, or we would go somewhere where we could just be us, get to know each other before we had the pressure of the other students or, the outside world trying to, get into our circle. Because when you're on a team sport, it's really important that everyone is cohesive, because if someone makes you feel bad off the court, sometimes that can happen, that can translate onto the court as well. So we worked really hard at making sure that everyone's voices were heard. We worked really hard at making sure people felt comfortable to be who they wanted to be. But of course, not always easy, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of teenagers. However, I think our coaches did a really great job, and we had a lot of really great years.
A fun one here from Sir Charles Tupper Elementary. This is going to wax your brain here a bit. You ready? What's the most points, the highest amount of points you ever scored in one game?
So when I was with the JC Rockets, I believed I scored about
Flex to the weak side, drive.
Oh, a few pictures going to go up as you talk. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was with JC Rockets, I think I scored over 60 points. And then with SMU, I believe I got to 45, 46. Sorry, over 50 points, and then 45 or 46.
Okay. A lot of questions here from kids wondering, and I can fill in a bit of context here. When you left Halifax Grammar School, there were universities all over North America, many in the States, all in Canada, that wanted you to go there. And you chose a school that essentially was across the street, 25-yard walk from Halifax Grammar School. Why did you choose St. Mary's?
Well, it's no surprise that community is really important to me. And with grammar school, we would often have gym classes at SMU. So I was really comfortable with being at St. Mary's. But also, I really liked Scott Monroe. He was the head coach there. I had played with him previously on a provincial team. He actually also coached my sister when she was playing, I think, U14 basketball. And I wanted to be able to have the people that supported me throughout my career that helped me get to where I was, be able to come watch me play. So, my aunts, my cousins, my parents, of course, my sisters. And I also wanted other kids to know that you don't always have to go away from home to be able to be successful. So for me, I don't think I had the idea that I was going to be, this person that everyone else can look up to or anything like that. But I wanted everyone that I knew, they were told, you have to go to Toronto, you have to go to the States if you want to be good at basketball. And I was like, why does that have to be the case? So the best way that I could, change that thought or change that mentality was to lead myself and stay home. And I think it worked out really great. Lots of girls would come to the gym asking us for autographs, and sometimes we'd have more people in the stands than the boys' games. And it was really powerful to see the shift in not just, the team's attitudes about playing, but also the community around us. People were coming to see us play because we were exciting and we were having lots of fun. And that's what I wanted people to have and feel. And I really hope that young people want to make that community for themselves once they finish high school, whether that's SMU or Dow, Acadia, X, stay close to home. Let people come and celebrate you and share in your fun that you're having, for sure.
A lot of kids have done their research about you, and they know that after St. Mary's, you played 40 to 45 games with the Canadian women's national team, could
Okay.
have played in the Olympics, could have played in the Olympics, and could have played in the WNBA. But you chose not to. It was your choice. And a lot of them are confused. How could you have a chance to play pro and decide not to play pro? And, Burton Ettinger had that question. Greenfield Elementary had the question. What went into your decision to, I guess, kind of walk away from the game?
Well, excuse me, by the end of my career, so my 4th and my 5th year, I started to recognize that I wasn't only thinking about basketball in the ways that I was when I was younger. So I started to think about, I'm going to have practice tonight, but what can I do after practice? I started becoming curious about other things that I could do with my time. When you start playing basketball from when you're 8 years old or in grade 3, and once I was 12, I pretty much started playing year round. So there wasn't a real off season. So that was playing with the provincial team or the national team when I was in the summer, or playing with the JC Rockets, and sometimes with my school team during the school year. It didn't leave for much room for me to, have an opportunity to do other sports. So I decided to walk away from basketball because I had enough. I wanted to try some new stuff, and I really wanted to be a mom. It's something that people don't talk about enough, I don't think, especially for our young ladies, is that, having the goal to be a mom is okay. Wanting to, do something different, even though everyone else is expecting you to do something, is also okay. And I think I just led by example of trying to do whatever made me happy. And once basketball wasn't doing that for me anymore, then I decided to try something else.
And this question is a follow-up from a cold Carrefour. I think you have answered it, but I'll let you articulate it again.
Yeah.
Do you regret leaving the game?
No, not at all. I kind of explain it to people, or especially to kids, well, to everyone can relate. If you've only eaten pizza for 15 years of your life, you're going to want to know what other food's out there, whether it's hamburgers or French fries or, a salad, anything that you do that much. At some point in time, you're going to want to start to, be curious of other things. And I've always loved kids. I've always done, the summer camp counselor in the community, or doing the summer basketball camps with SMU. And I knew that I wanted to be a mom ever since I was in high school. And with the national team program, they wanted us to stay with the program into our early 30s. And that wasn't something that I was willing to do at that point in my life. And I don't regret that I didn't force myself to do this thing, because I knew everyone wanted me to do this thing, and that being play basketball professionally. I wasn't ready to, go into that route. I knew what it looked like because I had experiences with the national team program, where it was very similar to if you're a part of a professional organization, just based on conversations with other girls who were playing professionally. And I don't regret the decision at all. I've done circus classes. I've gone to dodgeball games. I currently do Muay Thai, which is like a combat striking type of self-defense. And I'm raising my kids and having a great time watching them grow up. And I've coached my daughter's soccer team. I'm sure I'll probably be doing more coaching stuff as, my kids get a little bit older. But yeah, I'm just being curious about life and enjoying every moment and every step down the road.
We got about, I think about 3 or 4 minutes left, probably 2 or 3 more questions. From
Okay.
Bell Park Academic Center.
Okay.
This is a great question. What do you hope to achieve as an influence on youth? And I think another way of phrasing that is, what can youth learn from your story?
So, hey, Bell Park, that's where I went from grade primary to grade 6. So Bell Park, my kids and I, we go up there to play at the park or the playground. I would say for kids to be curious. So try new things, all the time. My thing was basketball. Some kids, it might be a different sport. It might be not a sport at all. It could be singing or dancing or drawing or painting, but try lots of different things and find out what you like. And once you figure that out, try to see if you can use that as a way to help you be successful with whatever success looks like for you. So if you're an amazing painter and the goal is for you to, travel across Africa, well then, paint some paintings, sell them out of your truck and drive across Africa, right? Like if that's what you want to do, go do it. For me, it was basketball, starting my family, finding a career, all of those things that I felt like were a success. And that's what's made me happy. And so figure out what it is for you and find a way to do that.
And a final one, here we are in Black History Month, and you are a very famous Nova Scotia athlete, a member of the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame, one of our youngest ever inductees, by the way, born in East Preston. And when it came time to decide where you were going to live, you decided East Preston. What does Black History Month mean to you?
I think it means that it's a great opportunity to have difficult conversations in a hopefully respectful way, but those conversations shouldn't end this month. They need to continue moving forward. My community has done so much for me. There's such a rich history here in terms of, the Black Loyalists, the Jamaican Maroons, and everything that we've done for Halifax. And I actually just had a conversation with a school earlier this week about what it means to be an ally, what it means to have privilege and biases. And ultimately, we can use this month and really every month to learn about things that we don't understand, learn about people who don't look like you, and remember that there's always positives in the negatives. There's always something that you can find to celebrate, even though our history appears to be so negative in terms of the transatlantic slave trade and segregation. And I mean, just more recently with the police street checks, the Black Lives Matter movements. If you're on social media, you can start to understand how difficult it has been for someone who looks like me. However, I think by knowing our history, we'll be able to take that history and learn from it so that the future can be better for the young people on here, can be better for everyone. So I think it's a really important time of the year, but it doesn't end with this month. We need to, have more conversations and, start to learn and understand about people that don't look like you.
Well, there's the perfect point on which to end. We're really proud to have you in the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame. And thank you so much for doing this. I'm sure there's 6,000 to 7,000 students across the province who learned a lot and got to hear from one of their heroes. So I'm going to bring Shane back in to wrap it up. But Justine, thank you and best of luck with wherever the road leads, okay?
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Nice seeing you guys. Some people are leaving.
So on behalf of the Nova Scotia Sport Hall of Fame and all the teachers of Nova Scotia, we'd just like to thank you for taking the time out of your day to share some of your story with the students of Nova Scotia. I think it's an important one, and I'm confident and positive that everyone enjoyed it a lot. So, and just as housekeeping, all the teachers on the call right now, we've recorded this, and we'll send out the link very soon, and then we'll also share both the links of Justine and Mark Smith from last week. So anyway, thank you for taking part in the Hero Chats, and we hope to have some more in the future. See you later,
Thanks.
everyone.
Guys.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justine.
Thanks.